Hey, it's Mikey Pancakes Whitfield, master trainer and author, and of course, somebody that's lost 115 pounds and been able to keep it off now for over 15 years. And this is my story. And the reason why I wanted to share this is a couple of reasons. One, I want to introduce you to who I am and what I'm about and what I believe. But I also want to share with you where I was and how I got to where I am now, and then what I'm doing now to keep off the weight. And I just think it's really important to share that because a couple reasons, really. One, hoping maybe you'll get some ideas. Feel free to jot down some ideas if you got some pen and paper handy. If not, you can always rewind this and watch it, once you get your pen and paper ready, or you can come back and listen to it another time. Maybe you're listening to it in the car, I don't know. But feel free to take some notes and those kinds of things. But at the very least, I hope it gives you some inspiration and gives you some insight on what was going through my mind and what I'm doing now to keep off the weight. So as a matter of fact, that's one of the secrets that I use to keep off the weight is something that I was doing back when I started, and of course something that I'm doing now. And by the way, this is unedited. Of course, I'm going to do a little bit of editing and show some before pictures just to show you what I look like. But other than that, this isn't scripted. This is just off the top of my head. So if I stumble a lot, that's why. But I just feel like it's going to be more authentic if I just kind of share with you what's going on up here, which can be a little scary. But anyway, let me jump into it, okay? So one of the secrets that I use is I have a window of 5 pounds. So I get on the scale. Now, a lot of people don't, they say the scale is unhealthy, and it can be if you are obsessed. I like to use it as just one of the tools to help you gauge progress and to kind of just see what's happening. In other words, you really learn what your body it gets used to and how it responds to certain things. For instance, one of the things that I've noticed over the years is whenever I have vegetable soup with grilled cheese on Ezekiel bread or whatever healthy bread that my wife tends to get, maybe it's gluten-free, I don't know. She makes incredible grilled cheese during the winter and in the fall. But anyway, for some reason, I'm always a pound or two heavier the next morning, but I don't sweat it because I know that is from the sodium content inside the soup, and of course maybe in the grilled cheese, because sometimes we'll even put some meat in there like ham or turkey or something like that with our grilled cheese. So I know that the reason why I'm a little bit heavier is because my body's hanging on to water, right? And I don't sweat it. I don't freak out because I know those 1 or 2 pounds is going to be gone in the next 24 to 48 hours. As long as I drink enough water the following day. So that's why I always kind of keep a gauge and learn what my body is how my body is responding to certain foods. But anyway, so I keep a 5 pound window. So once I get past that 5 pound window, that's when I realize, okay, I've got to hunker down. I've got to tighten up my nutrition a little bit. I got to stay, I got to get more active, or a mixture of both, that's your ideal thing to do. By the way, if you're dieting without exercise, you're making it harder on yourself. And if you really want to make a change in your body, you want to lose fat, not just weight. Weight loss and fat loss are two completely different things, but that's a story for another day. This is about how I got to where I was, what I did to get that weight off, and of course what I'm doing these days to keep it off. So let's rewind and go back to the beginning, okay? So this was in December of 2002. And I was playing PlayStation, and I was playing Madden, and so I threw an interception, and I got extremely upset that I threw that interception, and so I threw the controller down. Now here's what happened is when I bent over, or I bent down to pick it up, that's when I was like, because all of a sudden I found myself out of breath, and this is because I was having to strain to reach down to pick up the controller. And I was in my 20s, I was like 27, 28 at the time. So I go down to get the controller, I'm out of breath, and I can't even see my feet because of all the belly fat that I was hanging on to. It got in the way of my eyesight of my feet. And of course I also noticed that I was sweating. Although this was in December, so it's pretty cold out. Yeah, I live in Georgia, but it can be pretty cold outside, right? And yet I was still sweating. So that's when I was like, wow, I have got to do something. I am going to die in the next 10 years if I don't do something, because At that time, I was well over 300 pounds. I think I was like 310, 315 pounds at the time. And, I was on the road to ending up in the hospital or worse, be dead. Okay. So that's when I realized I had to do something. So I decided to also be realistic and realize, you know what? Okay, here we are. You got like 2 or 3 weeks left before Christmas. And then, of course, you got, Christmas parties and things like that. So what I'm going to aim to do is not so much lose weight right now, but just start paying attention to what I'm eating and jump on the New Year's bandwagon. Here's what I did though. A lot of people jump on the New Year's bandwagon and they don't have any short-term goals. They don't have any long-term goals. Or their goals are very vague. Like, hey, I'm going to start a New Year regimen and I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to eat healthier and I'm going to exercise. What does that mean? Does that mean you're going to go on walks, 2 or 3 times a week? Are you going to do strength training? How often? How long? Where are you going to do it? If you want to lose weight, how much weight are you wanting to lose? And can we shift that instead of, looking at weight? Can we look at size? Maybe you don't want to lose, maybe you don't want to, be in a size, 18 dress anymore. You want to be in a size 14. Or if you don't want to wear size, 46 or 48 inch pants like I was, and you want to get into say 32s or 34s, if you're a guy, or maybe you're a woman and you want to lose a jean size, whatever it is, you got to get specific, right? So my goal at the time was to lose 50 pounds by the time I went on vacation. Now I was going on vacation roughly 6 months later, and we were going to the Dominican, and it's just no reason really. It's just a bunch of friends of us, and a bunch of friends of ours. We're just going to go to the Dominican and just kind of enjoy a week off and relax, right? Well, my goal was to lose 50 pounds by the time we went on that vacation, which was, like I said, a little more than 6 months later. So that was my long-term goal. So long story short, I start off in the new year, and I ended up losing 75 pounds in 6 months, which was 25 more pounds than my goal. So I was ecstatic, right? So I was in pretty much maintenance mode from that point on until about, I think it was like a year and a half later, I decided to be a trainer. And as I was getting certified to be a trainer, going through the materials and all that stuff, that's when I realized, the ins and outs of what I could do both with strength training and with nutrition to get a little slimmer and feel better. I wasn't looking to get a six-pack, get a six-pack abs or anything like that. I just wanted to, feel and look a little bit better and move around even easier. And so since then, I've lost another like 30, 35 pounds. And here I am today, and I've been able to keep it off since then. And now, how long did it take, to get those extra 35, 40 pounds? Roughly, if I remember right, about a year. So it took me longer to get that last bit off than it did the initial 75 pounds, because I was also a little bit more moderate about my approach, more doable approach, if you will. So, and I also knew I wanted to keep it off. So that's basically the snapshot, or that's it in a nutshell of how I went, or how I started and how I got into it. Now, what did I do during those 6 months? Well, I don't do it anymore, but I did install a cheat day. So basically, Monday through Friday, I ate low carb typically. Of course, now I don't do low carb, and I actually lost weight not doing low carb. We'll talk about that in a second, but that was my initial thing was, I'm just going to try low carb and just make better decisions, right? Well, soon the low carb just I got burned out on it within a couple weeks, and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to make better decisions with my food. And sometimes that meant lower carb, okay? Doesn't mean I was on a low carb diet. It just meant that I was going to, choose better foods. I mean, obviously, if I'm going to do a huge bowl of cereal and go from that to an apple, that's still carbs, but it's less carbs, right? So that's what I focused on, was just simply making better decisions. And of course, I had a cheat day. Now, here's what was strange about the cheat day. When I first started, I went all out on my cheat days, because the old me, what I used to eat, let me share that with you real quick. My old diet, I'm not exaggerating, I'm probably consuming anywhere between 10 to 12,000 calories a day. Because, my breakfast alone was over 1,000 calories. We would go to a local gas station on the way to work, typically Quick Trip. Not Quick Trip, I still love it, but this is just where we stopped at. And I would get an iced honey bun, because a honey bun, that's not iced is not enough sugar. So I got an iced honey bun, and then I would get this huge thing of Mr. Pibb. So that was my breakfast, okay? Now the honey bun alone was I think 800 calories. And of course, this huge thing of Mr. Pibb, you're looking at least 300 to 400 calories, if not more. So that's over 1,000 calories right there. And then for lunch, typically a lot of fitness experts say, yeah, you gotta stop eating McDonald's. Well, that was me. I was actually eating at McDonald's. I would choose McDonald's for lunch because I was working in the corporate office. And so I was eating supersized meals. I'd get the triple cheeseburger, supersized with, supersized fries. And then of course a supersized Mr. Pibb or Dr. Pepper, whatever it was that I would drink. I'd always have a soda. And then maybe a milkshake on my way out. And then during the day, I'd go to the vending machine and get a candy bar, right? And another soda. Now for dinner, this is where I really brought it home, okay? So while I was trying to figure out what to eat for dinner, I would go into the pantry and I would get chips. Sometimes it was Doritos, sometimes it was just sour cream and onion potato chips. It was a variety, but it was always a supersized bag. So I would munch on those while trying to figure out what I wanted for dinner, which ended up being 99% of the time a frozen pizza. And of course, this is a large frozen pizza just for me. I would eat the whole thing. And then I would have ice cream for dessert. Now the ice cream, typically I don't even know what the size is, half gallon I think is the traditional size, like the kind of the cube size, the rectangular size, about this big, Breyers, Kroger brand, whatever it is. One of those would typically last 2 days. So I would eat half one day and half the other. This doesn't include all the munchies just before bed as well. So, it was pretty crazy, right? That was my old diet. So I figured, okay, you know what? For breakfast, instead of a honey bun and a Mr. Pibb, I'm gonna change my breakfast and I'm gonna have some oatmeal. And I just kind of, did that, right? I just kind of made better decisions. And then as it got easier and easier, I figured out that I was noticing that on my cheat day, I didn't want to cheat as hard. My cravings were starting to shift. Let me tell you something. When I was over 300 pounds, I absolutely hated salads. I couldn't stand them. I would go to the salad bar and I would literally, my parents are witness to this, okay, and my sisters too. I would go to the buffet or wherever, to the salad bar, and I would get the toppings. I would get the little, the pepperonis and the croutons and the bacon bits. And then I would take the dressing and put dressing on that stuff and eat it. That's how gross I was, right? So I hated lettuce. Well, now salads is one of my favorite things. I don't like a lot of vegetables at all, period, but salads is definitely up there. It's one of my favorites. Now, granted, my wife makes fun of me for my salad because it's basically lettuce and dressing and croutons. But I love it. That's just what I like. Now, if you're going to put tomatoes and cucumbers and onions and all that stuff, gross. That's not me. I just like lettuce, dressing, and croutons. That's my kind of salad, right? So all of a sudden, my taste buds were literally transforming. Like my cravings were transforming. I no longer was craving chips. I was craving a salad. And so that's what happens when you really start to just work on the small things and work your way up and make better decisions, one after another. All this momentum starts, right? So when the cheat day came, I didn't want to cheat as hard. So that's really my diet, is I just made better decisions. That was my diet. So for you, that's what I'm going to recommend as well. Just make better decisions. Don't worry about labeling it. Back then, this was back in 2003 or 2004. There, paleo, keto, South Beach, all that stuff. The labels weren't as strong as they are today. It's like today, your diet has to have some kind of label, right? That's not true. You don't worry about the specific label, Just make better decision, because then you're not nearly as stressful. Like, okay, I'm going to have, instead of the candy bar, I'm going to have an apple. Oh, I can't have an apple because that's not low carb. See what I mean by stressing yourself out? So just focus on, you know what? A candy bar used to be my snack. Well, now I'm going to replace that with an apple, and that's healthier. And I know that's a better decision. So that's going to be a big key takeaway, hopefully, for you, is just simply make better decisions, right? So that's pretty much how I got that first initial 75 pounds off, right? Well, now let's talk about today about how I keep it off. And one of the powerful tools that I use is intermittent fasting. I'm a daily faster of 16 hours, sometimes a little bit longer. And that's basically when you have your last meal at, say, 7 p.m. So you wouldn't eat again until lunch the next day, like around 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. Okay, so you're basically taking a 16-hour window without eating. You can drink water, you can drink coffee, and things like that. You don't eat. You just simply take a break from eating. And so I leverage that as a maintenance tool myself these days. So I'm a daily faster, but I also will occasionally, sometimes once a week, we'll do like a 20-hour fast. Now the reason why I fast so much is because on Sundays is pancake day, and I absolutely love pancakes, and I want to go all out. So I have like 7 to 8 pancakes drenched in syrup. We're talking probably around 1,200 calories in one sitting, and that's what I thoroughly enjoy. So that gives me the wiggle room to allow that, and it also gives me the wiggle room to have a big dinner at night. I typically have a big dinner at night, and yes, I've been able to keep my weight off doing that, but it's in combination using intermittent fasting. Now, is intermittent fasting for you? Maybe, maybe not. It's worth exploring, but that's what another takeaway I want you to realize is there's no diet that's perfect for you. Okay, what worked for me is not going to possibly work for you as far as intermittent fasting. You're more than welcome to try it. You may fall in love with it, but I will give you this recommendation if you do want to try intermittent fasting. If you're going to do a daily fast, I recommend 4 days a week for 2 weeks. If you're going to do a daily fast of 16 hours, so 4 days a week for the first 2 weeks, just kind of ease yourself into it because it's just like any other diet, right? And then from there, add in a 5th day, maybe for a couple weeks. After that, a 6th day, until you're doing 7 days a week. Now, if you want to explore the idea of doing 1 to 2 24-hour fasts per week, I would recommend this: 1 20-hour fast per week for the first 2 weeks, and then bump it up to 22 hours, and then do that for 2 weeks until you are doing, at the most, if you're going to do a 24-hour fast, 2 24-hour fasts per week. And again, just like any other diet, you just kind of look, kind of weave yourself slowly through it and just kind of transition from what you were doing into intermittent fasting so you're not overwhelmed. Okay, so that's another key. Now, strength training. What am I doing these days? Almost the same thing as I was doing back then. 3 days a week I strength train, sometimes just 2, because I do play a lot of basketball. I play basketball 3 days a week, sometimes 4 days a week. So I I definitely stay active. So I play basketball 3 days a week. I strength train 2 to 3 days a week, and it's always a full body workout. So I do legs, pushing muscles, pulling muscles, and of course core, direct core work. And that's not necessarily to get a six pack, but to just to make my core nice and strong so I can crawl on the ground and play with my kids and not get hurt. And of course, I play basketball with guys in their 20s, and I'm 44 right now at the time of recording this. And so I got to do what I got to do to keep up with them. So, and keeping a strong core is part of that. So that's what I do is three full body workouts per week, 2 to 3 of them. And my workouts are typically about 30 minutes, usually less, anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes. And of course, a little pitch here, but I basically follow the workouts found in Sets in Scripture, which is at setsinscripture.com. And I use the app, which of course comes with the program. I record my sets and reps and things like that. And it just kind of keeps me accountable and it allows me to keep up with my progress. So that's pretty much what I do as far as my strength training routines. And I like to do supersets and circuits. Non-competing exercises like a pull supersetted with a push, a lower body supersetted with a either a push or a pull. But here's the tricky part though. For instance, let's say you do a dumbbell squat and you want to superset that with a dumbbell row. Yes, those are 2 different body parts. You're doing the lower body and then you're doing your pulling muscles. But here's the thing: is your grip starts to lose its power when you do a dumbbell squat. So that's going to affect the dumbbell row. So always follow a professionally designed program. Don't show up to the gym and do random exercises. You're not going to get anywhere when you do that. Even when I first started, I followed a structured program, and even to this day, over 15 years later, I follow a structured program. Typically one that I wrote myself. I have hired coaches in the past, and so you got to follow a structured program. Okay, to make sure A, you're not getting hurt, and B, you're not doing random exercises, and 3, you're getting rewarded for your time invested. In other words, anybody can make you sweat for 20 to 30 minutes, right? But how much sweat equity are you getting back on that return of investment? Are you consistently getting in shape? Are your muscles starting to look more denser? Are you getting that toned look? I hate the word tone, but are you getting that toned look that you're looking for? Things like that, right? So that's why you want to follow a structured program. So with that being said, hopefully this helps you. Hopefully you got some key takeaways about where I was and where I'm at now, and how you can go about. Again, one more thing that I'm going to add is the habit rollover approach. That is something that I've used with my private coaching clients, and that's what you can use right now to really get some momentum. Basically, all you got to do is, and we have like the step-by-step guide in our Sets in Scripture program, but here's like the nuts, kind of an overview, if you will, of it. Basically, you write down all the habits that are holding you back, nutrition-wise and exercise-wise. Maybe you drink 2 or 3 beers at night. You have sugary cereal every day for breakfast. You don't exercise enough. Whatever it is, write out those habits, okay? I recommend just starting off with 4 to 5 of those habits. Then what you do is you start working on that easiest habit that you can change. In other words, there's 4 let's say you have 4 habits on paper. You look at the habit that you think is going to be the easiest one to start working on. You work on that one habit for that first week until you master it and you have dominated that habit. So let's say, for instance, you're drink enough water. That's an easy one. So let's say, hey, I'm going to start drinking 75, 80 ounces of water every day. You do that 7 days a week. And until you do that 7 days a week, all the other habits, you just let them fly. Keep doing what you're doing. You just focus on that one habit that you're improving, which is the water intake. Once you've mastered that habit, then you continue with that habit, roll it into the next week, and then start your second hardest habit. So that's the habit rollover approach. So here I am, I've been yapping for over 20 minutes. Hopefully you haven't gotten bored, but you got some good takeaways. And I hope that gives you some perspective on where I was, what made me change, and of course what I'm doing now, and gives you some ideas, but at the very least gives you some inspiration. All right, so I definitely have all kinds of cool stuff on my channel. I'm coming out with new stuff as well. I got beginner workouts, got no equipment workouts, got minimalist workouts, exercises done right, how to do them better, all kinds of stuff. So make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And of course, make sure you take hold of the new Sets in Scripture app. I have a free version. All you got to do is go to the link in the comments or in the description, and it'll take you to the 5-day challenge that you can take at any time. It's basically, I'm a faith-based coach, and you'll see that you get a daily devotion, and then of course your daily workout. And it's a blend of metabolic resistance training, metabolic conditioning, and metabolic finishers. Don't worry, you don't have to know what those are, but when you blend all 3 of those in a strategic way, you will burn fat faster. So if you like the idea of that, take advantage of it. Click on the link in the description. And of course, give me a thumbs up if you're inspired from this video. All right, I'm Mike Whitfield, and I'll talk to you later.